Hello, everyone.
Good evening. Hello.
Howdy, howdy. Sorry for the late startup. A couple of technical difficulties here at the onset.
Can you hear me, Dave?
I can.
Okay, all right. I had a little trouble getting in. I don't know if that was everybody getting in or just me.
No, we have the meeting wasn't started until I think 5:32. So
Okay,
when everyone else were probably trying to get in and weren't able to, but that's all resolved now.
okay, all right. Are we ready to start then, you think?
Let's see how many we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right now I'm seeing Matt, Craig, Mike, Melissa, Kasha, and I'm not sure if you know Matt, but I was contacted by Dan Thino stating he had a conflict and was curious if we were going to have a quorum. I said, I think we will have a quorum if you cannot make it. So I, in essence, excused him, so I'm just passing it along.
Okay,
But we should have everyone here, it looks like.
all right. So somebody dialing in there. I see a number of phone. Is somebody dialing ending 4640? Is that, do you see that, Dave? Is that,
I do see it. I do not know who that is. If you wouldn't mind identifying yourself. I see the mute is on. So if you can hear this at 920-639-4640, if you don't mind unmuting and identifying yourself, please. Yeah, I don't know if that's Dan or not. I don't think so.
I'm not sure what his number is.
But regardless, regardless, we can move forward with the meeting, I would think, Matt.
Okay, all right. Let's call to order the meeting of the Green Bay Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission meeting for Monday, July 19th, 2021. Move down to item B, roll call. I'll call each member or commissioner's name. If you don't just say you're on, please. Chairperson Keepers is here. Vice Chairman Dan Thino is not here, so skip over his name. Alder Stevens.
Here.
Okay. Lieutenant Sobiak.
Here.
Melissa Fluke.
Here.
Okay. And Kasha Huntowski?
Here.
Okay, good. Welcome to Melissa and Kasha for your first meeting on the Green Bay Traffic and Bicycle Pedestrian Commission meeting. So we appreciate you stepping forward and joining our commission. So thank you from the chairman there. And maybe we'll just take a moment here. I don't know if we got anybody else waiting to speak tonight, Dave, or not, but if Melissa, I'll start with your name. You're first on my list. We just want to give us a little bio about yourself, a little short, 5 to 10 seconds, a little bit about yourself, not go too in depth there or whatever. So just so we know who you are. So go ahead, Melissa, when you're ready there.
Sounds good. I'm Melissa Fluke. I grew up in Ashwaubenon and now obviously live in Green Bay. I'm a school psychologist in East De Pere and I've worked there for 6 years.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing, Melissa. Kasha, if you want to just give a short bio on yourself, please.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Kasha Huntowski, and I'm the Executive Director of the Neville Public Museum Foundation. And I am born and raised in Green Bay, moved away and came back, and just really excited about some of the stuff. Not necessarily the traffic and the parking, but the biking and the pedestrian part. So.
Okay, well, great. Hey, welcome to both of you, and thank you for taking the challenge of joining the commission. So appreciate that. We were short a couple members, commissioners, so it's good to be almost in full force here. So thank you. And I don't know how much Dave has shared. We typically vote on each of the items, and we'll call on you if you can either make the motion or second motion. You can kind of follow along as we dive into the meeting here tonight. So, but if you got any questions, either of you please ask. And once again, thank you. So let's move on to item C then, approval of the agenda. I think
Motion to approve.
motion been made by Alder Stevens. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Let's move on to initial request number 1. Or no, I'm sorry, we gotta go back. Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, Dave. So all
Correct.
good there?
Correct, we need another motion.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
motion been made. Do I hear a second? All in
Kasha,
favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on then. Motion approved. Initial request consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Galvin to install crosswalk buttons at the intersection of Porlier Street and Monroe Avenue for pedestrians crossing Porlier Street.
Did you want me to go first on this? Actually, I think the 4640 number might be Bill Galvin.
Is that Alder Galvin?
It does look
Why don't you
familiar.
start,
It
Dave?
might be him. So I don't know if potentially you want him to speak first on the item.
Alder Galvin, can you hear us if you're on the meeting tonight?
If you're on, unmute yourself, please.
You don't have a text or way to email him, do you, Dave, by chance? Or he's on mute, if that's him?
I'm gonna check real quick on my contacts. I know I have them in here, so.
We need to inform Bill how to unmute himself on his cell phone.
Looks like we just dropped them and I just confirmed that that was him.
Okay. Is he going to come back on a virtual meeting or call back, or what do you think? Or you want to go ahead, Dave, and see if he comes back?
Well, since we're already on the item, and he's off of the meeting, I could just move forward with what I have prepared on the item, and I would presume by that time, then he may be coming back on. I'll just alert Beth and Casey to be looking for him to rejoin the meeting and to accept his invitation.
Alder Galvin will be joining us momentarily.
Wonderful. Would you like me to proceed then, Matt?
Yes, please.
Okay. So many of you are familiar with the intersection of Monroe Avenue and Porlier Street. It's a signalized intersection. It's 2 blocks north of Aldo Leopold School. And Monroe Avenue turns into Riverside. And as you know, now with the Mason Street Bridge down, that 172 is getting a little more traffic. And I think that it's been a little bit busier route, at least in the interim it has been. But anyway, looking at the signal and its operations, it currently has some pedestrian detection at the intersection. So there are buttons, I should say, at the intersection to cross Monroe, which is the larger of the 2 streets. There are no buttons to cross Porlier Street, but that is somewhat by design. That you may be asking, well, how is that beneficial? Well, when we have a location, a signalized intersection that does not have pedestrian buttons, yet has pedestrian accommodations and the countdown timers and all the other signal appurtenances that go along with that, we do build in the appropriate amount of time for pedestrians to cross. As a matter of fact, in this case, we have more time than actually when I looked into what our calculated timings should be out there for walk and flashing don't walk. We actually have additional time, and that predominantly is probably because it's near school and there are children that cross at that location during the school year. So that being said, with the movement across Porlier Street, we have a 5-second walk time and a 15-second flashing don't walk time. And like I said, that's more time than what would be actually required if you did the calculation. And it comes up every phase. And as a matter of fact, under higher amounts of traffic because, you know, the vehicles can actually extend that amount of time as well. So there could be between 36 and 73 seconds actually of time that would be allocated to Monroe Avenue. So as you can tell, those two numbers certainly are higher than what we even have for the program time for the pedestrians. So that being said, there should be ample enough time to cross on each cycle of that traffic signal. So that's really about all I have on that. I don't know if we necessarily need to have the buttons there because the pedestrians are accommodated on every cycle. So,
Hello?
and I do see that Bill has joined us, and I think I just heard him say hello. So I'm done with what I've had prepared, Matt.
Yeah, go ahead, Alder Galvin.
Okay, let me first say that this is how we're going back to in-person meetings, and because I'm having problems with Wi-Fi at my home currently, and I'm trying to do this on my phone, and I'm finding it frustrating. But Dave, great explanation, but from an engineering point, that's great. But this is the problem that I'm getting from the neighbors in the area is that this is not about timing or anything else like that. It's about a lack of enforcement and motorists not yielding to pedestrians in the crosswalk. I've had several neighbors tell me of experience that they either personally had or that they personally observed where they couldn't cross because people continue to drive through the intersection making right-hand turns, and or they watched where children, unaccompanied children, were unable to cross because they were afraid because cars kept turning right on red and going through the intersection. So, I mean, we can give them all the time in the world, but if no one's obeying the law, it makes it impossible for them to cross the street. And they thought maybe if there was a flashing signal for pedestrians or not pedestrians, the motorists might notice that a little bit more. And like we've talked before, and I think Alder Burnett will be discussing this later on tonight, there's a clamor from the alders and from our constituents that we get more traffic enforcement from our police department. I know they're having troubles with staffing in that, but we need to find a way to get more out of them when it comes to enforcing the traffic laws. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alder Galvin. Lieutenant, do you have any comments maybe on what may be happening there? You know, what I'm hearing is, I know police department's busy. Is there a traffic team? Can we get them out there in this area, Lieutenant?
The enforcement part's hard because we have 4 traffic officers for the entire city of Green Bay. And we get traffic complaints all over the entire city. So we try to prioritize and put them where certain complaints are coming in. But it's hard to hit every single one because there's so many. It's just you know, it would be good to have 6 or 8 traffic officers. I think that could really improve the traffic situations in Green Bay, but unfortunately we don't have the staffing to do that. So we have 4 officers on the traffic enforcement unit. It's just, you know, where are the biggest problems that we have that they can spread out to best utilize the resources.
Are you getting any
All right.
feedback from the neighbors besides
if
Alder Galvin, Lieutenant, that
Yeah,
out there?
Could I make a comment about the lieutenant's statement?
Sure.
We have 180 sworn officers, maybe 175 sworn officers. Every one of those officers has the responsibility and the ability to make traffic stops. Every one of them, not just 4 traffic officers. And my concern is if we're just waiting for the traffic officers to do traffic enforcement, we'll never solve this problem. I think there has to be a concerted effort for all officers in uniform, in squad cars, to take the time to make traffic stops when they see them happening or when they have the time to set up and do it. I mean, we talked to Chief Smith over a year ago about this, and I had the department run the numbers, and we have some officers that don't even make 1 traffic stop a month. And Chief Smith said that was going to be addressed. I don't know if it has been, because we ran into the whole COVID thing. But it's a concern. And it has to be a department-wide effort, just like it has to be a city-wide effort to educate and get some enforcement going with these complaints that the alders are fielding from their constituents.
I have a question too.
Go ahead. Alder Steve.
Sure, this is for the officer, Mike, or Lieutenant, sorry. So I know that when Chief Smith was, on board, in the evenings, it seemed like they always picked one of the officers to do traffic. Are they still continuing to do that in the evenings?
As staffing allows, they do. I know they do a night shift. I have not seen that on evenings because the evening shift was reduced. Afternoons does it as they have staffing. Day shift is extremely low, so they haven't been doing it on day shift. But we have been putting officers on special enforcements just for traffic on top of the traffic unit.
This whole pedestrian thing is an issue, but another thing that's an issue is we call them red light runners. And that's happening quite a lot in our city as well. And I've seen it on numerous times. We have an officer sitting at a stoplight, car runs that red light, that officer is doing nothing. So, that's another thing that needs to be addressed as well. So I'm thinking as alders, we're gonna have to come together and come up with some plan like Alder Galvin is stating.
Would it make sense for the alders to set up a meeting with the chief to express your concerns if you're hearing it from, sounds like several constituents in your alder, in your neighborhoods or whatever, right? I'm not sure as a committee what the traffic commission can do. I mean, Dave has kind of gone over the engineering part of it. Now it gets down to enforcement and, I think the lieutenant's hearing it, but I'm not sure how else we can address it from the traffic commission. Dave, do you have any other thoughts on how we can address it? I mean, it sounds like you're taking care of the engineering part of it. I don't know. I'm not sure where to go with it.
Oh, Dave, you're muted.
Sorry, I forgot. Anyway, just responding to one thing Alderman Galvin had stated, relative to, I know you were saying that some of the people want to see the lights flashing, walk and don't walk and so forth. And that's part of the request for the buttons is so that they can see that. I can assure you that those pedestrian indications are there. They do exist. It's just that they're sans buttons just for the crossing. But like I had said, it's almost like the buttons being pushed every cycle and every phase. So I think that actually probably makes it a little bit more safe than less safe for them. I don't know if this is a matter of, that they're not just seeing the walk and flashing, don't walk. I'm not certain if it's the newer style, the 16-inch countdown type versus the separate displays of the 9-inch walk and flashing, don't walk without the countdown. That I am not aware of, but at least when it comes down to quote unquote flashing light, the flashing don't walk does exist on all approaches at that intersection. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then number two, we've all talked about the 3 E's. I mean, I'm sure there may be some people that are new to this concept. I know we have 2 new commissioners, and although I know that they definitely are in some circles with some people that probably have heard this before, but the 3 E's of engineering, education, and enforcement. And there's others as out there too, the 5 E's, etc. But the core that I think that we can handle here at the city are those 3 E's. And yeah, we all need to work together on all of these things when it comes down to it. And I can tell you that over the years, as the traffic enforcement unit has been decreased in numbers, the reasons why I don't know. I just know that when I started 15 years ago, there was probably a good 8+ of them. And it was a difference. But times are different back then than they are now. I think we definitely have a lot more I would say multifacets when it comes down to traffic now. I mean, I think there was probably more of a focus on back many years ago, but that's no longer the case, as we all know. I mean, all road users are involved in this whole scenario. And we all just have to work together at looking at trying to tackle this problem, because at the end of the day, this all becomes a motor, because everything I heard the elder say today relative to people almost getting hit in crosswalks, you know, people taking rights while they're in the crosswalk. These are all decisions that are being made that they're intentionally going in front of these people and breaking the law. And I get it. Some of them may be doing it and not seeing them. I don't think that that's a majority of the case. The violations, I think that I've been seeing present, and you had mentioned, Matt, as well, about red light running, or was it Alder Craig Stevens? You know, these are intentional things that we're starting to see motorists do. And as an engineer, I know it certainly frustrates me because it makes my job more difficult to try solving this. So this is really something that I think we do need to come together on, and potentially I think that the Traffic Commission can help.
I have a quick question on this one because I live right over here. And when I saw this up here, I was like, well, there already are buttons. So like, I know there's already buttons. So I thought you were maybe talking about like the flashing ones with the signs for pedestrians that are a few blocks up, like over by Lindemans, like if you go further up the street. Have you seen, David, or anyone, are those actually helping or being utilized a lot for the additional lights, not just the crosswalk buttons themselves? Because I see people almost get hit and tons of kids walking all the time, even with those buttons. So would a solution like up the street be better? I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, I think this item's been before the Traffic Commission several times. That area of the crosswalk, especially during the school hours, has been a concern more than been on the commission for more than a few years. So it's a recurring theme there. I think part of it is speed coming in from the south. You know, they're going faster than what they should. It's just inside the city limits, so they don't slow down, and that's an issue that been talked about more than a few times. I don't know what the magical answer is. I wish there was one that we come up with as a commission, because safety is utmost concern throughout the city. And I think, you know, we hear complaints all over the city of Green Bay. We have speeders, we have people doing all the things that were mentioned. It's just not at Portlier and Monroe Street. It's throughout the city. And it's like Dave said, we need to get, you know, the 3 E's as best we can. And how we accomplish that, I'm not totally sure, because it's, like I said, it's a reoccurring thing. I wish there was something magical to slow people down and have people pay attention, because nobody wants to see anybody injured or any type of situation like that. But how you do it, I don't know. I mean, and as the lieutenant said, I mean, there's only so many officers to go around, and, you know, unless we're going to have a mass hiring of officers, I don't know if that's, you know,
we had speed boards up recently for several weeks on Monroe near Portlier. I think it's just south of Portlier. I think it's 2 weeks northbound and 2 weeks southbound. So they're up there for about a month, and I'll have to look at the data to see what the speeds were for those. But we recently just had those up.
I have a
well, I think
question,
that,
if that's okay.
yes, go ahead, Wilson.
And kind of in regards to the education piece of it, the Yield to Your Neighbor campaign that's going on I think that's what it's called. I see Kesha smiling. I know my parents gave me a t-shirt at one point, and that's a new thing that's going on. I mean, is that something that's happening in connection to the commission, or is that completely something different that might address that education piece that you guys are talking about?
Dave, are you aware of anything? I'm not myself, but Dave, are you aware of that?
You're muted, Dave.
Muted. I think it's Wello.
That's what I was wondering.
Okay. I have not heard of it, but it sounds like a great thing. Like I said, the more education that's out there, more chance the message can get out. Dave, are you unmuted yet, or?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave this thing on.
Leave it.
It's
Stay
just
live. We wanna hear
confusing
you.
me, know.
Stay live.
Actually, yes, I'm well aware of what Wello is doing. As a matter of fact, I sit on that same committee as Melissa's father. And so yes, it's a great program and a program. And that's definitely one of the things that, you know, my presence as an engineer, I do participate in those meetings, and you know, I feel that myself, as well as Melissa's father and mother, and Tracy's been very active as well in that, are instrumental in getting these things to happen. You know, and I've even done the public, the PSA campaigns, and had media contact with them at least last year on their effort. So I mean, these are opportunities that, you know, I look at myself as an engineer, but yes, I also look at myself as being part of the educational component.
The other comment that I think of, Lieutenant, has the traffic unit been out at this location recently that you know of, or can you get them out there? I guess I know there's, you know,
I
you name
can
the
have
spot.
them, I can have them go out there. But I can't guarantee you that I'm gonna have a lot of coverage at that one location. I can have an officer on a different enforcement do pedestrian safety, because we do have some enforcements for pedestrian safety, specifically that, which I can have that an officer at that location for extended period of time, up to 4 hours. But that would be next week. I can't remember the date, but I think it's next Thursday. There's one 4 to 8 p.m.
That's what I was going to ask Alder Gelman. Is there a better time? Is there a certain time that would be more prone, that would you get more bang for a buck to have the officer out there, Alderman Gelman, or anything that
Well,
you're hearing?
Yeah, no, I mean, from what I'm hearing, and this is, and I've experienced myself, it's, and like the new board member was stating, she lives by there. She's seen several incidents. Yeah, I'm not trying to dump on the police department, but we need more enforcement all the time, everywhere in Green Bay. And every time an officer has 20 minutes of spare time, they should know in their zones, because they all work the same districts usually. They know where the complaints are. They know where a lot of the bad actors are taking place. They should take the time to set up and even make, I'm not asking for tickets. I'm just asking for stops. Education. A stop is a chance for education. It's a chance for other motorists to see that the police are pulling people over, and it makes them a lot more aware. I mean, I was recently in Washington, D.C. this year, and they've got state statutes that allow them to use traffic cameras for red lights and speeding. And I was amazed at how many people were following the speed limit, stopping for red lights. I mean, yeah, I did see a few bad actors, but in a community of 700,000, I mean, I've been down in Milwaukee and seen 10 times worse drivers in incidents in Milwaukee. You know, and I know the PD can't get cameras up and that kind of stuff, but we just need to start having a better understanding within the police department that what people are asking for is traffic enforcement. I mean, we expect a lot of the officers, but what the people are asking for is traffic enforcement. I don't have anyone asking me about drug dealers. I don't have anyone asking me about gangs or any of that other stuff. What they're asking for is that their community be made safer through some traffic enforcement. And that we start changing the attitude of the bad drivers in this community to make it safe for everyone.
Yeah, I don't think that's a change in operation. I think one of the longest complaints from citizens is traffic. You know, they don't complain about some of the other stuff nearly as much as they do traffic. So I agree 100%. There should be more traffic enforcement, and you know, the officers should be doing traffic. And one of the things that we are going to is more moving radars. Some of our units, as of a year ago, we only had 3 squad cars that had radar in that officers could use when the car is moving. The other units were so old, they didn't have that technology. We since have increased the number of moving radar units, and officers are asking for more. So as they're driving, they can see how fast other drivers are going. And I'm going to try to put in our next budget to outfit all the new squad cars that get built with moving radar to help combat the speeding problem throughout the city. So that is, we are trying to do some things that make enforcement easier, because it's hard to, judge how fast somebody's driving while you're driving without that equipment. It's out there, it's just expensive, and we have to set aside money to put towards that to make it safer for everybody and make enforcement easier for the officers.
Well, and I'll tell you too. I mean, you all know I was on the job for 34 years, and it's been a few years since but when we had a different attitude about traffic enforcement, and there was a lot of it that was done by officers, not by necessarily traffic enforcement officers, because that's the way they were trained, was to be aware of traffic and to take advantage of spare time to do traffic enforcement. And I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside as they've gotten involved in other issues in our community. But maybe this is something the commission could make a recommendation to the police department, is to find the funding for the city to find. Another thing would be plate readers. Plate readers are loaded onto a squad car. They scan the plates of vehicles going by that squad car, and they run an instant computer check on it. It's a good way to find bad drivers, revoked drivers, suspended drivers, drivers with warrants. And you usually find those type of people with warrants are the same ones that are, a lot of times I found out through personal experience, are the ones that are committing some of our more egregious traffic violations. So, I mean, yeah, it'd be kind of useless for the community to say, yeah, we're demanding more traffic stops out of the police officers, but maybe the committee could make a recommendation that the city look at funding some of these different electronic tools that we could have at our fingertips to use to better allow the officer to be more efficient with their traffic enforcement.
Yeah, Alder Gelman, I don't think that's a good thing from the commission. Just a comment I would have here. I mean, you as an alder and Alder Stevens, I mean, you carry more weight probably than what the commission does. I mean, is this an issue you have addressed with the chief or the mayor that, what you're hearing? I mean, you guys got more power probably than what we do, but is it something that alders can come together and draft something? Or, I mean, we can do it too as a commission. I don't have any problem pushing that, but what about the alders, coming up with something to push the chief and the mayor that, hey, this is becoming more of an issue in the city?
Sure, we certainly could do that. And like I said, we did meet with Smith, and he was trying to get something going, but like I said, COVID hit and it destroyed everyone's plans for everything for the last year and a half. So maybe with the new chief or with the current acting chief, we could sit down and get any interested alders to meet with him or with the mayor and him together. That's certainly something we could look and try and arrange. But I think also if the committee were to make a recommendation, a view of the committees, the citizens of our community also feel this is something that ought to be addressed. A recommendation from you doesn't hurt, because then it goes to council and it can be discussed at council also.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more avenues we attack it, the better chance we're going to get, hopefully some help with the issue that's in the city here. So,
exactly.
All right. Anybody else got any other comments on this item, or let's come up with a motion here, I guess, to move this meeting along.
I guess,
Any other
Matt,
comments?
can I interject, Matt? On
Yep.
something? It seems like a lot of the discussion is actually starting to gravitate a little bit more in the likings of item E4. At least that's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm just wondering if we should really hone in on this particular item regarding Monroe and Porlier, make a motion, and then if there's other discussion that needs to take place, it kind of sounds like these two items are kind of blurring together. So I'm not sure if there's anything that the alder specifically wants to see on this particular item. I've explained the engineering part of it. One thing I know, Kasha, you had mentioned, and I didn't get a chance yet to respond, was you were asking about flashing lights like you had seen at other locations or maybe south of that location. I believe that's the one that's right by Marina Court. That is what we call a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RRFB unit. Those are installed at uncontrolled locations, as they're called, so in essence, there will be pedestrian crosswalk that will already be designated there, and those RRFB lights are simply there for, the thing about the RRFB is that it historically has been getting a lot of positive compliance out of motorists, which is, I think, why it's gaining such popularity, which is a good thing. Now, to use a device like that at a signalized intersection is actually, it doesn't really go with engineering practice, for the simple reason of you're trying to apply a fix to an issue at a controlled intersection. So there's two distinct uses for them. But I guess, I guess really what I'm hearing is there a way to make it more conspicuous? How can we make it more conspicuous, at least from an engineering perspective within our toolbox at this particular location? I would probably have to, if I off the top of my head, say that like a continental style type crosswalk typically has a little bit more of a level of contrast between the pavement. Now, I'm not really sure that, I don't want to make a recommendation for something that I'm going to think is not really the core of the issue. I don't think the core of the issue is that people don't know that there's a crosswalk there. I think it's just a matter of compliance. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just been my observations of what I've seen there. But I think people have seen pedestrians cross there, especially, and I drive through that. You see pedestrians there. I know they cross there. I'm not, I honestly think that that's the issue that's happening here. Now, how would we make them more conspicuous? The only thing I could think of on this one would be to upgrade, if they're not already, to 16-inch displays. The 16-inch displays are a little bit larger. The flashing component to it with a number obviously gets, I think, grabs people's attention a little bit more. I certainly can investigate the option of doing that at this location. It can, anything's possible depending on the budget. But if we can do a quick fix on this and look at the signal and just say, hey, if I've got the ability within my budget to swap it out, I've got no problem of doing that. If indeed the commission thinks that would potentially improve the situation.
I think any angles we can attack it from, Dave, is a good thing. Would be my take on it. So I'm thinking, do you have some engineering things you might want to add to this motion, Dave? And then maybe can we draft in the commission, meaning you as the engineer, or somehow draft something to the mayor's office that, what we're hearing tonight from the alders? And is there some way that the commission can reach out and move this thing along from what you?
Yes. Again, like I said, I think I'm hearing two discussions taking place, and I think that item E4 is probably the better one to address the overall, like you were talking, if there's a potential meeting between alders and mayor, etc. I think that isn't really as pertinent to this one, unless Alder Galvin disagrees with it as a requester. But I would make a recommendation at staff level that you can refer this to staff for study, and I can come back, I can work with my staff and determine what the cost would be to upgrade if need be. And again, I don't have that information in front of me. I just know that we have pedestrian accommodations at the location. But if we do not have the countdowns, if I can retrofit them in. So I'll make that recommendation to the traffic commission, at least from an engineering perspective on this item. And I'll also, which doesn't have to be part of the motion, just make a recommendation that I think that we continue the discussions in item E4 we're started under this one.
All right, so maybe Alder Craig Stevens, maybe you, since you're the veteran here, maybe you can make that motion as Dave just said, please.
I'll make a motion that we refer this to staff
Okay.
for further investigation.
All right, and then we're gonna move the rest of it to item 4 then, Dave, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have a motion on item 1, refer to staff. So it's been motion made. Do I hear a second?
Kasha, second.
Okay, Kasha seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 1 is complete. Let's move on to item 2 then. Initial request, consideration with possible action on the request by Lynn Camps to establish a loading zone on the west side of Beacon Lane from Capitol Drive to a point 75 feet north of Capitol Drive, I assume is what you mean there, Dave, 75 north, so.
Right, I'm not sure if you looked at the agenda packet, but I did have a map that was enclosed as part of this item. And it really shows the area that the requester is looking at for this, but I'll give you a little background. I did provide some in the agenda packet, but for all listeners tonight, that there is a newer business. It's a clinic, and it's noted on the map on that northeast corner. And I'm guessing that the instructions that are taking place are that employees are asked to park on the street to free up spots in the lot. I'm just basing that off of the multiple clinics I've seen over the number of years, and it kind of seems to be the practice. So I'm going to guess that that's what happened here. And I guess the issue is further compounded because they recently went through a parking lot project. I think it was just a ceiling project on it, but then they also had a pod on the street that they had some items in. It's no longer there, but so in other words, they were having some upgrades done on their property. And I think that's somewhat exaggerated this to the level it got to. I did have a conversation with the requester, who's noted, Lynn Camps. She runs a business called Bring It Errands. So they do all sorts of deliveries, and they've actually expanded quite a bit to like medical deliveries and things like that. So they do quite a bit of work, and that their area that they load is actually at the east facing side of that building that's noted with the white roof on it. And so you can see that carriage walk that goes there, that goes right to the door that they take deliveries and have deliveries leave. So they were simply just asking that area be available to them rather than, the dangerous situation that's somewhat taking place now that forces them to double park there, which I don't think anyone really wants, because that blocks lanes of travel. So in this case, I really asked her, I said, how can we kind of come to a good medium here? Because I'm sure that, that this other business, which seems to be thriving, they still need some spots, and they want to be able to do deliveries. So I said, would it be a happy compromise to have a 15-minute loading zone for just the times that you need it? She said that would be wonderful. So they really just need this Monday through Friday, 8 to noon in this area. Yeah, that would be my recommendation at this point in time, that on a 90-day trial to establish the no parking 15-minute loading only Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. zone, west side of Beacon Lane from Capitol Drive to a point 75 feet north of Capitol Drive.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Do I hear a motion?
I'll motion that.
Okay, motion made. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Motion been made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 3, initial request, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Stoyer to convert the signalized intersection of Taylor Street and Dowson Street to a 3-way stop condition. Dave, go ahead when you're.
Yes. As noted in the background in the agenda packet, this intersection actually is on a border with the village of Howard. So the west half of Taylor Street is Howard, the east half is City of Green Bay. This signal, as you may recall from years ago, it actually used to, when Dowson Street connected to 41, was a much busier intersection. 41 happened and was completed in 2016. So for the last 5 years, this signal has been in existence. I know that we've accommodate some of the change of traffic patterns that we've seen out there. And the alder had contacted me just saying, we just have problems at this intersection. It was kind of a generic statement, but this is kind of, and this should really be fresh in everyone's memory except for Kasha and Melissa. because we just got done with some detailed and deep dive on the Delsman Gray intersection and how that now from a signal to an all-way stop condition. And we saw the problems that were happening at that location. I will say it again, heard this, some of it might be the first time, but a traffic signal is not the panacea for all traffic solutions. It just simply is another tool in the toolbox, and it can come with its own issues as well. And, we really should be right-sizing intersections. And if indeed this can change in the last 5 years, if indeed the signal is not warranted at it, perhaps maybe an all-way stop may be the better solution. So any intersection traffic control must have an engineering study to support it. And with that said, I'm making a recommendation to the commission that this item be referred to staff for study.
Okay, do I hear a motion to refer to staff for study?
Motion to refer to staff for study.
I second it.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 4, initial request, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman Burnett to improve traffic conditions and enforcement of violations on city streets. And I see Alderman Burnett
Yes,
is with us tonight, and thank you for your request. And were you listening to our item 1?
I was.
So you kind of got a flavor for where we're going, so.
yeah,
So why don't you start out?
yeah. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to Mr. Hanson. His thoughts were my thoughts as well, is that a lot of what you were discussing would have probably been more appropriate on this agenda item, which kind of is okay to me because now we can have the proper preface to this discussion. I want to welcome the 2 new commissioners. Thank you for your service to the city. Your work is appreciated, as well as all the other commissioners here. I have a gentleman from the community that would like to speak. So after I make my comments, Mr. Chairman, if you could entertain a motion to allow him to speak, I would appreciate it.
Certainly, give us your comments, Alderman, and then we'll
Yep.
suspend the
Yeah.
meeting. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I've been on the council for, give or take a little over 5 years between my 2 different districts I represented, and traffic then as also the traffic now has been the #1 complaint that I have received. It's, in my opinion, gotten worse, and that's not to discredit or poorly of our police department. I think overall, it seems like from what I've seen in my own eyes and from what I have talked to people about, a general disregard for pedestrians, for bicyclists, a lot of speeding, a lot of ignoring traffic signs. And so I've witnessed that. People I've spoken to have witnessed that. Mr. Perrins has witnessed that. And we have kind of been at this, different times in our city's history, but yet the problems persist and, dare I say, have gotten worse. And so having children in my neighborhood, a neighborhood without sidewalks, and seeing children all throughout the city playing in neighborhoods near traffic, it's very concerning. And I think that we need to push a little harder to find what the solution is, and then dedicating the proper resources to fix the problem, or at the very least, make it better so that people feel like traffic is under control in the city, the best that it can be. And so again, I say that with no animosity towards the police department, towards our traffic engineer, towards anyone really. But as a community, we need to find a better way to address this. And I was very happy to hear the conversation that you have already had as part of this meeting. And I really would love to hear the Traffic Commission's thoughts on this. And I would ask you to assist us in attacking this from many different angles and from many different voices. So those are my comments. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Burnett. Let's suspend the rules and for interested parties to speak then if we can.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and open the floor.
Okay. Do I hear a second to? Okay, Kasha second that. So let's go ahead and we'll entertain interested parties to speak. So Mr. Perrins, looks like you're ready to go there. in, a couple, 3 minutes, give us some input if you would, please. So, and you probably need, Dave, do we need name and address, or do you got the
Sure,
name?
fine, no
address?
problem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, very good. Richard Perrins, I'm at 1402 Kellogg Street, local raceway. Anyway, safety is job one for the community. There's no doubt about it. And our police officers are taken up with much more in the way of violent crimes and other things currently. So we may have to look to get some increased enforcement through other means, and then utilize them, as was spoken by Alderman Galvin about going back to enforcing while they're on the beat. Technology seems to be a good start. There are much more sophisticated message boards than we have that could not only give the speed, but also remind them what the fines are. And in that respect, maybe we got to look at increasing the fines. So it really hurts. And it hurts them in their pocketbook, and it hurts them in their insurance when they refuse. And it seems like that seems to be the attitude. Many of our drivers, they just don't give a darn. They'll drive the way they want to at the speed they want to, and the heck with the rest of us. It's really a shame, but that seems to be the ongoing attitude. So increased fines, the moving radar, I had not known about that. And I did some research into signboards and other technologies or engineering that cities have taken. Some of them just don't work. Speed bumps, I've approached those, but I don't think that's really the answer for especially the more traveled streets. So there are some better radar signboards that we may look into. How to change the attitude of people. I think the mayor and the council really have job one here, to get out, get with the media, and do it on an ongoing basis, not one little 60-second shot with some cub reporter on the news and then it's forgotten. We need to get out and make this a real program that the city, I know the people will get behind it. I've looked on Nextdoor, there are 60, 70 people that are just fed up with the way our streets are being abused. I witnessed minimum one red stop sign run a day when I'm out there in our home. I know some of the cars are traveling easily 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. And it's usually at certain times of the day. So enforcement might be helpful if we sort of ask the community, what are the times of day that we see the greatest amount of abuses? And I know for myself, it's usually in the afternoon and people are racing to get home and pop a cold one. So, I mean, that just seems to be the way people are approaching it, or they just not thinking that, it matters how fast they go. And their cars are much more capable of going faster and spinning the corners more readily. Today, I witnessed 2 red lights just going down to Broadway and back from our home, which is about 2 miles. 2 red light runnings, somebody drifting across and not even signaling or doing anything. There just seems that there's a lack of education. And the way we get around it is go with a real concerted program. And the mayor and the council have job one here, because this is the biggest complaint in the city. I've talked to and listened to many of the alders, and it seems to be the #1 complaint. And I would imagine that Alderman Brunette and Galvin would agree. And Mr. Hanson, I'm sure he's heard it more than often. And so the technology can help, and we can start to make more awareness that you're going to get nailed either by a photo technology, you're going to get a fine, and it's going to, affect you. And after so many fines, your license will be taken away. If you don't want to, enforcement is the only real answer in the long run. So the technology is only a way to move towards getting that kind of enforcement that people understand will be coming their way. So I have great respect for our city police, but I they can't all the time. And I did ask for someone to come and observe, but he went onto the wrong street. And so that was a blown opportunity. Whereas, and I have one other quick idea and then I'll let it go. We have a parking staff that could be armed with radar guns and at least take note of what the speeds are and just give them an hour or two extra a day during the week. And especially if the citizens tell you, well, this is most prevalent on a Friday or a Saturday morning or whatever, and utilize those folks. We don't cross-train enough in our city staff. We need to utilize staff in the city. And they're all very smart, capable, and dedicated people that I've met. So I'd like to see that utilized in a more effective manner. And thank you very much for my time here this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. I don't think there's anybody else to speak. So with nobody else to speak from the or interested parties, let's go back to regular business. So can get a motion to go back to regular business, please?
Well, does anybody have any questions for Richard?
Oh,
If not, motion to close the floor.
okay. Motion to close the floor. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second, okay. Let's go back to regular business. Dave, do you want to chime in with your comments? I mean, we pretty much heard, I think you shared an item one. Any additional thoughts that come to your mind since we talked about item one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to reiterate what I said because I didn't see anyone new join. So you heard what I said in item E1. And so that plus, I want to address the item that Richard brought up relative to using technology in enforcement. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for bringing that up. I can tell you that as an engineer, that type of technology would help us because I do believe that it takes the multifaceted approach. And if, a lot of times I get asked, well, can we put some engineering application towards it? And then we do. And, I can only do up to so much. And then it's up to the motorist to comply to what I put out there. So this enforcement component, I think, is good. And then I'll reiterate what Lieutenant Sobiak had said is that they're short-staffed, and this does come up to a point of, it's a discussion for the chief and budgeting and how they're going to allocate staff. And again, that's out of my control, but I can just tell you from my history of being here that would help, because I can tell you that the people, I anecdotally saw more compliance 15 years ago. So I do think that the decrease in that staffing has made some sort of an effect on the way motorists respect our system. But getting back to Richard's talk about like photo technology and red light running cameras, speed enforcement cameras, and we hear about these. However, you don't hear about them in Wisconsin. Why don't you hear about them in Wisconsin? Because it's illegal. State statute prohibits any of this type of technology to be used. So that being said, if we were to make a change, in my opinion, I think it would be best to start a grassroots effort, get some political support at the city, and maybe we send a resolution from the city, Common Council and the mayor to Madison saying, we want this repealed. We'd like to see that state statute be reversed and allow this type of technology to at least be used. Now, I can tell you this, there is actually a pilot program. I believe it was approved for, I know I'm gonna say this wrong, but there's a category of city, and they approved it for a category of city or greater. It ended up being Milwaukee was the only one. So Milwaukee has a pilot program on this. So I'd be interested to find out how that has progressed, to see if there's been success or failures or lessons learned from that pilot program that we could potentially learn from. And what my hope would be is that if this is moving along and it comes back to the state legislature, that there would be some discussion on opening it up to other cities. So I think the ball might already be that we have a starting point, but I think it's really going to be up to our elected officials, our common council, and our mayor to push that initiative. I can tell you from an engineering standpoint, I would fully support that. And any sort of technology that would be coming our way as an infrastructure to maintain, I would definitely welcome it.
I have a
Go ahead,
question.
Craig.
Yeah, I have a question for Lieutenant. So I know that regarding the traffic division, I know that we had some people retire. Are we back up to 4 individuals now?
Yes, we're back to 4. So,
And so- Go ahead.
2 on day shift and 2 on afternoon shifts. So we have coverage from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10:30 at night.
Okay, that was my next question.
Any other questions regarding this item? Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
Alder Burnett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Lieutenant, the police department data, I'm guessing, on the number of stops, the number of tickets, the types of tickets at any given time on any given day throughout the city? Is that information public? I mean, because the reason I say this is both 5 or 6 years ago, I remember having a meeting with the chief at that time, and I was stunned at just the very low number of tickets that were issued throughout the city of our size. I think to a point where it was like 1 or 2 tickets per side of the river over a course of a few days. When you consider 100,000 people living in the city, many coming and going for work, recreation, you name it, I felt that that was stunningly low. Is that part of this? Do you track the data? Do you look at where their vulnerabilities and the tickets per zone? I mean, what can you inform the commission and the public, I guess?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, and I didn't run them recently. I know last year, running the past several years, last year there's a dip in the spring because of COVID. But that sort of came back in the fall, and I believe that we were almost on pace with the previous year in the fall time last year. I can certainly run the numbers and find out where we're at this year compared to previous years for all traffic citations, and I think we can break it down to like moving violations, failure to yield violations, and stuff like that as well. So that's information I can get. I don't have it right in front of me though.
I'd like to piggyback on just,
Go ahead, Alder, or Chairman, you can recognize Alder Stevens.
Go ahead, Craig.
I think that information will be great for this committee, but also I think another piece of information would be great. There are 180 police officers in this city, and I know that it's being tracked. I think it would be beneficial to see how many of these officers are truly doing traffic for us. Because I know earlier this year, we praised one of the younger gentlemen because he stepped up to the plate. The only reason why we know that is because those numbers are being tracked. So I think you should take a moment, look at all 180 officers and see who is actually going above and beyond to do traffic.
Yeah, the 180 is the 180 is not truly accurate because we have detectives, we have supervisors, we have school resource officers that are not driving a patrol car, they're not doing patrols. So we do have close to 180 officers. However, that's not the total number that would be actively patrolling.
And I think another group that we're not really focusing on is our community policing officers. They're in squad cars. They should also be doing traffic control left and right.
Yep, and I know they also work on the traffic complaints along with the traffic officers. So they are working on it as well, because a lot of those complaints are in neighborhoods that they have issues in and that they're tracking problems in as well.
Lieutenant, I just have a question, maybe more in culture of the police department. I'm kind of hearing Alderman Galvin, who has some experience, and just, is there a culture that maybe officers, younger officers, not younger, but all officers in general, I mean, traffic is not as important of a priority for them? And is there a culture that, they don't want to do that type of stuff, or?
Honestly, I would say that the younger officers are probably doing more traffic than the older officers
Oh,
are.
okay.
Um, I think that there's probably more officers doing traffic now than 15 years ago, just based on the reports and the number of citations coming through. Our officer that wrote the most citations last year was a 1 or 2 year veteran on the department. So I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think the younger officers are actually writing more than some of the older officers. So I don't think there's a climate where they're not enforcing traffic.
Okay, I was just curious on the culture, because you're in the police department. I don't know. I'm only asking the question, just what I'm hearing tonight, is that something that needs to be addressed within the department? I don't know, but I throw that out there because I've heard it more than a couple of times in our discussion here tonight. So, and you guys do an admirable job. We're happy to have the good police force that we do have in the city of Green Bay. So I don't think anybody's knocking on the police department. It's just, I think, as you said, there's just not enough resources to go around all the parts of the city who have traffic issues. I've been on the commission 20 years. I mean, every year it's kind of, it's not the same old, but everybody's got traffic issues, no matter where you live in the city, whether you live downtown or Monroe, Polaire, you name it. There's issues. So it's.
I think part of the problem is there's continually more traffic. Areas are getting busier and busier and busier. So as we continue to have the same number of officers, we have more traffic being traveled on every one of the streets. And that it's just, there's more people out there. There's more people out and about now than there was 15, 20 years ago. And there's just there's a higher population in the whole Green Bay area. And with that increased traffic, brings more traffic issues.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, this will be for the lieutenant again.
We're
So
picking on you tonight, Mike. We're sorry.
just questions, I love you guys. So, do you think, and I know this would be a common council that would need to fix this, regarding these officers in the squad vehicles, there's one thing that the majority of these squad vehicles is missing is built-in radar. Do you think that if we had more built-in radar in these vehicles, that these officers would be more inclined to turn that on? And if they do see someone speeding 15 to 20 miles over the speed limit in that spot, do you think they might be more inclined to make that traffic stop?
Absolutely, because it turns on automatically when they turn on the squad car. So it's running when they're driving all the time.
And I think that's a technology that we're missing.
Yeah.
And of course, we need to find the funds for that. So
we started off the year with only 3 moving radar units, and now we're up to 7. And we have 45 marked squad cars. We have 7 of them that are outfitted. My goal is to include that in the budget. So next year we're around 20 cars that have it. At least almost half the cars have moving radar, where then, just instead of stopping a car because you think it's going fast, you'll have the radar to back up, your estimated speed that the car is going.
About how much is that technology for a unit, Mike? Roughly.
Now I really have to think. I want to say it was around $2,000 a unit or somewhere in there.
All right. So, I mean, that seems to me to be a manageable number to find some money in the city budget, because not that we want to write tickets to everybody, warnings are fine and slowing people down, but I think they would almost pay for themselves probably at some point.
Well, I think if people are getting stopped randomly throughout the city, the word will spread that, officers are stopping for speeding, where, right now we're limited on technology. Unless that officer stopped running radar, it's hard for them to accurately get the speed that the vehicle's going. It's hard to pace a car on busy city streets, where the moving radar is the ticket for that, but we just don't have one right now.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any comments that we want to talk about in this item number 4? If not, we should probably put a motion together here, I think.
I do have one comment.
Yes, go ahead.
It might go into this emotion, but I've done it twice already. I know I feel it's best if we all do ride-alongs with the police department, because we will definitely know what's happening behind the scenes. So I would recommend that we all do a ride-along, so because you'll learn a lot. So
I'm sure you probably would. I would entertain that thought, Lieutenant, if you want to reach out to the commission to, work out the logistics of getting us at some time that makes sense or whatever.
If anybody wants to do a ride along, just let me know. I can hook you up.
Okay.
I recommend them. So.
All right. Well, commissioners, you've heard that. So if you're of the persuasion to do that, it's probably a good idea. I'm sure we'll get, as Craig is saying, a lot better feeling and pulse of what's happening in the city than what the officers see. So that's a good thought, Craig.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Any other comments on the item? Not, we should probably try to put together some type of motion. I think we kind of generally talked about it. Dave, you're pretty good at kind of giving us a direction to push for a motion. Do you have something we kind of put together here from your perspective?
I mean, there's a lot of things talked about. I mean, I'm hearing, recommendations for additional enforcement equipment, which would be the moving radars. I know I pretty much spoke about this, but I'm not necessarily sure if the commissioners are in support of it, but I really believe that there needs to be a push to get state law changed, because we're not going to have, we need more tools. I think everyone can agree, we need more tools. And if there's not a motion to support more tools, I think I just don't think we can make the ground that we can't. And I think that's a major part of this. And obviously, if there's going to be a push for that, so that I can start preparing from our budgetary level to start asking for this type of equipment as well, and start the exploration into what this technology is. But, I'm not going to do that until I know that we at least have an opportunity to start using it. So I
would advocate for everything you're saying there. As a commissioner, chairman, I would push for, I think you had great ideas. Everything I heard is really a good thing from my perspective. So, I mean, as a traffic commission, can we make a recommendation to draft something to the city council, or what we think needs to be done? Is that the angle or avenue we should attack, or not attack, but go after, Dave? Or
well, that's exactly what a motion would be. A motion is they're approving or denying it. So what you construct here tonight is going to go in front of them, and they will address it. So you can ask them to draft a resolution, it would go to legal department, in support of repealing photo enforcement at the state level. I mean, that to me is where I would start, is for them to draft a resolution, and you can actually have that just as your motion, recommend to Common Council to draft a resolution in support of repeal of the state's photo enforcement law.
okay, that would be one facet of the motion we're going to make then, right? I mean,
Yes, that's what I'm recommending, and if you support that, obviously you could put that as part of the motion. The second one would be relative, and I guess maybe Mike is probably more better to speak on this, but about maybe opening up money, and who knows, maybe even contingency funding towards maybe immediate purchase of some of these moving radars. If they're only 2,000, and I don't know what the budget is just for standard funds, and maybe Jesse or some of the other alders may know what's in the contingency fund, but I've known in past years when it used to be reported, it used to be, I don't want to say sizable, but something like this would be affordable as part of that. So I don't know if maybe that's an avenue to get some immediate funds That way we can start to see some immediate results on the enforcement. Again, I'm only an engineer. I'm not speaking, of course, on behalf of the police department. I'm only saying that if you're looking for some immediate results, that could be one way of going about it.
You know, I'm thinking that, and I don't know, I know there's short officers. I don't know if you're gonna be at, I wouldn't say full capacity, but if we could add officers to the traffic unit, I mean, we went from 2 to 4 in the last year, I think, or whatever, which is a great jump or whatever. I mean, use the alders, can we get more money for the technology for the radar? Can we get more officers? I mean, what I'm hearing is, you know, we need to throw more resources at it. And we as a committee, you know, traffic commission, bicycle and pedestrian can recommend it, but use the alders. And that's why I mentioned the Alder Geldon before. I think, you know, the alders also need to, it's not that you're not stepping up, but come up with some type of draft of something or somehow, I don't know, to get it to the mayor and say, hey, this is what our constituents, this is what we're hearing. We need to do something about it. And I mean, the more avenues we attack, the better results we're going to have to get something accomplished here. So,
Right.
I mean,
I just had an idea here too, Matt. And again, I'm just thinking of the structure of the committees and commissions at the city. And Lieutenant Sobiek, please correct me or step on in anytime, but the Police and Fire Commission would be responsible for new hires. So maybe if Traffic, Bike and Ped Commission refers this to the Police and Fire Commission to hire more traffic officers, that again, I don't want to be speaking on behalf of the police. I'm not. I'm just, if you're looking for ways to get results, that would be the avenue on, I guess, on how they do their hiring. I mean, I look at their agendas and that's predominantly what they're doing is they're looking at new candidates and things like that. But, and I don't know if that's it. It just came to my mind, and I don't know, Mike, if maybe you have an opinion on that.
Well, I think the best resolution would be a combination of all three. Repeal the ban on photo enforcement, increase the number of officers dedicated specifically to traffic, and to get the technology in squad cars that make it easier for them to complete traffic stops. I think if all three of those things were done, you would see a big reduction in traffic related issues within Green Bay.
Right. And clarity
But if
on
I could
the,
make a motion to do that.
I was going
there's
to
my
say,
motion.
Mike, you took the motion, you did it, man. That's, I think what everybody's thinking here, at least that's what I'm thinking. I think the rest of the commissioners are all kind of smiling and agreeing with you there, I think. So I think that's the basis of the motion. Yeah, go ahead, Craig. You got.
I do like the Police and Fire Commission. It would be interesting to know how many applicants have actually applied and how many have actually been denied, and how bad that denial is. You know, I know they do all those backgrounds on everybody, but if it's something small, and you know, if they're still currently working for another police department, but someone there was a blip somewhere along the line and it was still denied, should it really be denied? You know, I may find, you know, if you have something really small, you get denied. So maybe we need to say, hey, we have to relook at how we're processing these applicants. Jessica has a comment.
Go ahead, Alderman.
Yeah, thank you. One last comment I'll make, and I'll let you all carry on with your business. Thank you for this discussion. Thank you for the ideas. I think the 3 points in the motion covers where we should go with this for now. This will get before the city council, and for the 2 new commissioners, just for your information, the recommendation would go to the council, and then we could pull it there and discuss it before that entire body. So if that is what happens, if this motion is made and approved, then it goes there, we can continue the discussion there. You're all volunteers and you give up a lot of your time and energy towards this cause, and I appreciate that. I don't want you all to feel that you're on the hook for some major changes. I don't want you to feel, I don't want the mayor's office, the city council, the police chief to get off the hook, you know, basically on this, because let's be honest, traffic violations is breaking the law. Therefore, that subject should be decided by law enforcement in the office of the chief. And right now we have an open position. Hopefully hire the right person to lead our department for the next several years. And hopefully the new chief, whoever that person would be, we'll bring this up. We'll bring traffic enforcement as a serious part of the law enforcement of the city, and that he asked the mayor and the council for proper funding and assigning proper duties to certain officers so that we have a target that can be accomplished. So thank you all for what you've brought to the table here in this discussion. Exceeded my expectations, quite frankly, and I look forward to some real good discussions at city council and especially during the budget process.
Well, you guys are gonna be key. The alders have a lot of say at the budget time, so I mean,
Yeah.
the things to happen is, don't all fall in your shoes, but
It's right around the
y'all just
corner.
pushing it. So, all right, you heard it. So, all right. I think Mike put together a really good proposal there. Does anybody want to add anything to what Mike has suggested? Because I think what he came up with was awesome. Anybody else got any thoughts that we want to add to that? All right, Dave, did you write all that down then?
No. No, that's why we have the transcription service, and I will definitely be looking into that for what exactly.
Mike, maybe if you want to just make a motion to the three general things you just said, I think if you would do that. as
Make a motion
form.
to, for the city council to put a resolution together to have the photo enforcement ban repealed. A motion to increase funding for moving radar units, and a motion to increase the number of officers on the traffic enforcement unit.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made. I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resounding yes, I'm sure. Ayes. Okay, motion made, seconded, all in favor, carry. So thank you all for the
Thank you.
time with this. So I think it's an important issue to address, and I'm glad we got something going here, and hopefully we can get some, help at the city level and gets it down to the state level, so we get this thing is some type of handle on the issue that's creating a life. I'm trying to think of the right words here, but it's, it's a cause, what do you cause that with life? You want your life to be better, what I'm trying to say here.
Quality of life.
Quality of life, thank you. So, okay, with that. enough
Thank you,
mumbling
Jesse
by
and
me.
Richard.
Okay,
Did we have a second on that motion?
Yes, me.
Yeah. Craig seconded.
Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, let's go on to item 5, referred back from study, consideration with possible action on a request by Tess Warner of Who Street to remove the stop sign on Oakdale Avenue at the intersection of Who Street to convert an ineffective three-way stop to a single stop intersection.
I'm not sure if the commissioners have had a chance or opportunity to review the memorandum that was enclosed in the packet, agenda packet. I don't want to go over the details since it was submitted, there is a lot of engineering speak within it. I'm going to just go over to the conclusions section and recommendations, that no multi-way stop warrants were met. In essence, what we're doing is kind of reverse engineering this. It's a location that has always stop. The request is to make it a one-way stop. And so what we do is we actually run the warrants on the condition, and if it doesn't meet it, then we look at it and have to ask the question on, is it really the appropriate intersection traffic control? And if not, what would be in its replacement? So as stated in the conclusions, no multi-way stop warrants were met. I did not find any other traffic issues of concern during field observations. The warrant study resulted in no recommendation to continue it to operate it as a multi-way stop. So that's when we start looking at a regression back into what would be the form prior to that, which would be a one-way stop condition. Just for clarity, I did want to make mention that I did not find a crash history out there, which is a good thing. It doesn't mean that if we change this, it's going to all of a sudden get worse or anything. So what I did is I looked at some of the, and you'll see some of the photos in there. I wanted to make sure that we have proper intersection sight distance, proper stopping sight distance, and all other aspects of what I would consider to be a standard one-way stop. And I did find that it seems to be just like its brother or sister that would be immediately to the east of it. You basically have a mirror intersection. It's really Who Street offset by about 175 feet, I think is what it was. Regardless, they're they're identical streets for the most part. So that is my recommendation. If anyone has any questions on anything in the report, I am here to answer any of them. But I do make that recommendation that on a 90-day trial, since this is regulatory, to remove the three-way stop condition Oakdale Avenue at Huth Street South and establish a one-way stop condition on Huth Street South at Oakdale Avenue.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll motion his recommendation.
Okay,
I'll second.
motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Move on to item 6. Looks like,
Chairman, can we possibly take 8, 9, and 10 all at once? That's all on the same street.
yes, we can.
And then can we do 11, 12, 13, and 14 all in one?
Yep.
And then looks like the other ones are Donald Driver, so all those together, and then Bond
Okay.
plan together.
Sounds like a plan, Craig.
Can I interject and even make it more simple for you?
Sure.
This actually really is 2 locations. Items 6 through 10 all pertain to Auto Plaza Way. If you
Yep.
recall, this was that discussion that that Gandrew had requested those no parking between signs right by their driveways removed. That was successful. And then items 11 through 22 are all related to the rail yard development. And those have gone in, and both of these locations were a success, and I am making a recommendation to terminate the 90-day trials and move them all to ordinances, or if they're removals, just to remove them from ordinance.
That was quick for you, Dave. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to
Kind of long
remove
tonight,
or
so
terminate.
motion- Do I hear a second? Okay, motion been made and seconded, so 6 through 22 is approved. Informational. Dave, do we want to talk about next month's meeting yet? Is there any, hybrid meeting versus Zoom or in person, or how we're gonna do it yet? Or will it be something from
Sure.
you down the road, you think, or?
Yeah, I'll just add, because as you commissioners know, I did send an email out just to try to determine what the feel is out there about meeting in person, meeting virtually, having a hybrid option. And then, of course, having that discussion as well internally here to find out what really is available per HR policy at this point in time. So I did get multiple responses from commissioners that I do have some that are willing to meet in person. I did not get any responses that of people that were concerned about meeting in person or said that they would prefer virtual only. And then the response from HR is that we can have meetings virtually like we are tonight. We can have hybrid meetings, meaning that anyone that wants to attend can attend. We do a little bit of digging in advance. We'd like to know if there would be some people that want to speak on the subject, just so we got an idea on how many people may show up. That way we can make sure that we're following proper CDC guidelines as we would move forward. But those are really our only 2 options. We don't have an in-person only meeting option at this point in time as we transition out of the pandemic. And, we're just kind of taking it really day by day, week by week, and moving forward. But the options are going to be A, virtual, or B, hybrid. And seeing how we have some that would like to meet in person, I would think that the next meeting, we should at least consider the option of having a hybrid meeting. And again, those that may not want to meet in person still have that option of meeting virtually. I do have staff here at Public Works that will need to know about this in advance. We do want to get a little bit of a heads up on this so that we can get the proper training on it, because it's my understanding that although there have been some hybrid meetings at the city, that there have been some initial hiccups along the way. We are hoping that those are remedied, and we could move forward at an August hybrid meeting with little to no glitch. So that being said, it's really up to the commission on how they want to meet. I just wanted to summarize some of that information that I've learned.
Yeah, can we have a little, were we able to have a little discussion, Dave, even though we don't have an agenda item about commissioners, how we would like to meet? I mean, can we talk about that for a few minutes?
But yeah, you certainly can under your information item for Robert's rules, yes.
Okay, all right. I personally, I'm good either way. We used to meet in person. I thought when we met in person, we'd probably get more people to come to the meetings and versus virtually, which some people have technology issues or not, but I'm good either way. Either the Zoom call is good for me or if we meet in person. So that would be my 2 cents on it. And, we can, as a group decide how we want to go forward. So anybody else want to share their comments on how they want to meet? Please do.
In person.
I'm good either way.
I'm good either way, but like even for my own board meetings, some people just aren't good with the technology. So even if we all met in person, if people in the public wanted to be able to, I can see why the hybrid is necessary. So, but I'm good
Yeah.
at it, honestly.
That brings up a good comment. If the entire commission decided to meet in person, you could still set it up where people can still Zoom, right?
We're required to do that.
Okay.
There is no total in-person option. It is hybrid, so we would be setting up
Camera.
It would be set up just like we are right now. It's just that there would only, let's just say, I mean, there potentially may not be anyone except for the host as part of the virtual meeting, but
Yeah.
that person would be available to let others in. Let's say they want to participate virtually, then that host would then allow those people into the meeting to participate.
I think it's nice to have a virtual option for anybody that might not be able to make it. But I agree that usually having a meeting in person, you probably get a lot more done, or it's more productive, more discussion back and forth than virtually.
Yeah, I would share my experience over the years. I mean, we've had meetings where we've had, 15 to 20 people come and address an item, which, sometimes we don't like to sit there that long, but, we are a city commission and, people should be able to speak their piece or whatever. So, and I think, the virtual, I think has held some people back because for most meetings, honestly, we've not had many outside participants that, that have come to the virtual meeting. So, like I said, it's the city commission. I think we need to make it as easy for people to share their concerns and to make our city a better city. The more people who have feedback, the better it's going to be for all of us. So that, like I said, I've been on the commission for a while, so I just feel we get more people to share their ideas. I think if you had in person, but I understand, might not be able people to come to the meeting. So to have the hybrid option is certainly, I think, a good thing too. So
Mike, are you
Did I
in
give you
person or not?
I would go in person.
And did Dan make a comment? I thought in person. Dave,
Honestly, I forgot to look at my email real quick. I know that he had,
Knowing Dan, I feel like he'd prefer in person.
well,
you're right,
Yeah.
Kasha.
yeah, no, I think he was fine with
Yeah.
meeting in person, and I know that he is probably one very similar to Alder Galvin, who has had some communication issues in the past relative to the technology. I mean, we're all aware of that. We're not backing out right now, but
Right.
I'm just saying that, yes, I know that he would probably benefit from meeting in person.
besides common council, if we all met in person, we'd be the only committee that is in full. We're starting the trend.
Right.
All right, so that gives you enough information to go back and tell kind of what the traffic is thinking, Dave?
Yeah, yeah. Again, you don't need a motion. I just need to get an idea on where you are headed for the meeting.
Okay.
That said, I'm hearing right now 4 people saying both option and 1 saying in person. So that being said, it sounds to me like a hybrid meeting is in our future for August, and I will move forward with making accommodations that way here at Public Works. I will inform commissioners as soon as possible if for some reason that these technical difficulties are not worked out, but presume that they will be. I would think that our IT department would have these sort of things worked out in a month. So that being said, I'll just plan on having a hybrid meeting, and that means that 310 is still our room. So if you do want to join for that meeting in person, it would be at room 310 at City Hall.
Would you need to know ahead from each of us if we're coming?
I believe so. I believe that is part of the protocol here, that I would at least need to get a head count. So,
All right.
and additionally, as I said earlier, if there is knowledge that you may know of someone that may want to attend in person, that would be good to know. You know, if they're going to be attending virtually, that I don't really need to know, because they have that option, and it's a public meeting that's published with instructions. So that being said, yeah, I just kind of need to get a head count is all it is. So, if I could get that like a week in advance, I think we'd be fine. But,
Okay. Oh, why don't you can put me down, Dave? I will be in person. Plan on being in person at the next meeting. And
okay.
Me
And
too.
Stevens will be in person. Do the rest of you have an answer for that for August?
I'll be in person as well.
Yeah, Kasha will be in person too.
Melissa too.
okay, all right.
All right. Sounds to me like we actually, unless Dan would like to still go through the grueling process of going virtually.
I think Dan misses us. He'll be in person.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
And he's not here, so I can poke fun of him because he always pokes fun of me. So, but anyway, we'll just plan on a hybrid meeting. We'll get that option set up, and it looks like we'll see everyone in person then.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad we got that addressed. Any other items anybody has, commissioners? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, please.
Okay, motion made. Do I hear a second? Second. And just so Melissa and Kasha know, this is a very long meeting. Usually our meetings are less time than this, so don't say, wow, that meeting's too long, I don't have much time, because we've had meetings where we've been out in 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes too, so.
Oh, we've
Just
had
depends on the
meetings that
area.
were 3 hours. Come on, don't lie.
I'm used to county stuff, so some of you never know how long these are going to be. You
Yeah.
just block off.
It depends how many agenda items we got, and we didn't have a meeting last month, so that probably had an item or two from last month, but some of them go pretty fast, and sometimes we had I thought really good discussions, and I had issues that are really important to the city, so I was happy with everybody's comments and where we went with that, so good job by all the commissioners, so.
Yep, and then just as a reminder, there was the bylaws item that's still out there that was held over, and I did not include it on the agenda based off of information I heard. But if you decide to want that to be placed on the August agenda, please let me know as soon as possible. And even better would be that if there is a draft document at that time that you would want me to include on the agenda, then feel free to email that to me, and I will include it on the agenda packet.
So regarding that, I can talk to Dan. And then on that comment too, if that's the only item for August, let's not put it on August.
Right, yeah. If we only had one item, I certainly would be contacting everyone asking if they'd really want to meet on the one item, and so.
Yeah,
But-
our I'm sorry, I didn't mean, our rule of thumb is, it's at least 2 or 3 items. If it's less than 2 or 3 items, we don't usually meet. Unless it's really a hot button item that needs to get done that month, but typically try to push them off if there's less than 3 items, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. But that's kind of.
we may have had some that are less, but that are time sensitive.
Right.
You know, and we can always make that judgment call. And if it's a time sensitive item, there's usually people that want to speak on it. It's going to be, it's going to take up some time anyway. So, yeah. And just as more FYI to Kasha and Melissa, that the December meeting is normally canceled due to its proximity to Christmas. Like I think this week it's actually like, it might even be on the day, I don't know. But it's usually really close and we typically cancel the December meeting. So just always just kind of keep that in mind if there are certain items that, you know, that you're aware of or something that may need to get addressed before the end of the year.
All right, we adjourned, so we better stop hashing here. So, but thank you all for meeting tonight and welcome again, new members. So
Welcome.
see you in a month.
Welcome and
In the
goodbye.
flesh. Bye-bye.
Good night.